Go. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching today. We're so happy to be able to record this for you lovely ladies on this beautiful April day. And we hope doing it this way means that more of you can join us. And we will be doing a live Zoom on stress and adaptogens very soon. So we hope that you can join us for that live. So let's go ahead and get started talking about sleep. So in my practice, I have always said that the three prongs to wellness are food, exercise, and sleep. And I have to say that after 10 years in this field and studying wellness overall, but focusing predominantly on food in the work I've done with Little Green, I now actually believe that getting on top of your sleep could actually be the most important of those three prongs for your overall health. So today, first, we'll talk about why sleep is worth focusing on. And then second, we'll share some tips on how to sleep better. So we wanted to start by talking about how, as women and caretakers, that we imagine getting enough sleep is indulgent or a luxury. And we want to tell you right here and right now that sleep is not indulgent. It is taking care of yourself in the most basic sense. So if you're a person that's kind of making an effort to exercise and eat well, but you're really casual about your sleep, you may not realize the deficit you are creating for yourself in terms of both short-term and also long-term health. So we want to recommend that you consider treating sleep as you would other elements of wellness. So sleep deeply, often, and a lot.
So there is this huge cultural piece here, right? American culture worships the 10-hour workday and pushing ourselves beyond, to an absolute limit and beyond, and sort of the pursuit of mad productivity. It's almost the idea that stress is strength. And that the lack of sleep is a badge of honor, right? So we never want to admit that we're resting. But what if we turn that on its head and define strength as the pursuit of our best selves? The pursuit of our best selves would absolutely include taking care of ourselves. And it turns out that we can literally, physiologically think better and be kinder when we've slept enough.
So we know that sleep is critical in terms of all biological functions, including cell repair, tissue regeneration, and interestingly, conversion of fat to muscle. Sleep is critical to immune function and to mood, to emotion, and to lessening anxiety. But insufficient sleep is associated in many studies with inflammation, with heart disease and increased mortality risk. Other studies have shown that sleep deprivation reduces creativity and it alters our leadership skills, and it also lessens our cognitive control. So in fact, one study we read showed that reducing sleep by only 90 minutes in one day also reduces daytime alertness by 1/3. So in other words, the loss in alertness is not just relative to the sleep time lost, it's magnified.
And sleep is the antioxidant to the brain. It's when waste clearance from the brain happens. It's required to minimize the damage from the free radicals that accumulate in the brain when you're awake. So chronic sleep deprivation actually accelerates the aging of the brain. In a recently published 25-year follow-up study, they were looking at sleep in midlife, and they showed that that shorter sleep in midlife increases the risk of dementia later in life. So it compared folks who slept less than 6 hours a night at age 50 and older to folks who slept more than 7 hours or 7 hours or more when they were 50 and older. And the people who slept less than 6 hours were 30% more likely to develop dementia in their older age.
Yeah. So to conclude this section on why to prioritize sleep, we have to ask the question of how we make time for sleep when our schedules are already so full. So one idea is to really change your routine so that you approach sleep like you would going to work in the morning. Just don't be late. Don't start a movie at 8 p.m. if you're trying to start washing up for bed at 9. Schedule to start the movie at 7 instead. And then let other things like laundry and emails go to the back burner because they actually are not as important as your sleep.
Okay, so let's say we've built sleep into our schedule, but we're still not sleeping well, which unfortunately happens for many of us. So we've shared a number of ideas in the program, but we wanted to highlight a handful of things that really do make a big difference. My absolute favorite is the gratitude practice before bed. There's a 2016 study with 119 young women who every night for 2 weeks wrote down what they were grateful for in their journal, what they were grateful for that day. They were compared to a control group who reported just like everyday events in their journal before bed. And so the ladies who were writing about gratitude significantly increased the quality of their sleep. This was both what they noticed and reported, as well as according to objective measures. I think it's fascinating.
I love that one. Yeah. So another tip would be food and intermittent fasting. So for those of you who are not familiar with intermittent fasting, the idea behind intermittent fasting is that you're compressing your eating schedule during the day. So instead of having breakfast at 7 a.m. and dinner at 8 p.m., you might want to have breakfast at 9 a.m. and have dinner at 5 p.m. So you're compressing the hours that your body is doing the digesting. And it allows us to spend our awake time digesting and then the restorative time of our sleep to really move on to cellular repair. So in Little Green, we encourage you to have dinner 3 or more hours before bed, kind of along these lines. And we also suggest no grains at dinner because of the difficulty in digesting grains. So your sleep will be deeper if you aren't digesting, and your body can instead be in, rejuvenation mode.
And I want to jump in here too about simple and processed carbs like desserts and alcohol close to bedtime. They both spike your blood sugar, right? So when your blood sugar then drops, as it does after a spike, you release these hormones, the fight or flight hormones, epinephrine and cortisol, which can then wake you up. And so if you're having difficulty staying asleep, it could be related to simple carbs and alcohol close to bedtime and that blood sugar balance. And another super important piece that I think we lead with in the program is screen use and blue light glasses, blue light blocking glasses, I should say. The blue light that we get from our screens interferes with our sleep. And so there's a 2018 study about blue light blocking glasses and people with insomnia. So half the participants wore blue light blocking glasses for 2 hours before bed for 1 week. The other half wore regular lenses. And the blue light blocking folks experienced significant improvements in sleep compared to the others. And again, this was both subjectively and objectively measured. So blue light suppresses the secretion of melatonin, which is the hormone that signals the onset of night. It's the factor that's describing kind of opening is described as opening the sleep gate. And melatonin synthesis and secretion are partly modulated by estrogen and progesterone. And these hormones are fluctuating in perimenopause. So this is when sleep for most women is most disrupted in perimenopause. We do make less melatonin than before, but it seems that it's more kind of like the dramatic fluctuations that is toughest on good sleep.
Yeah. Another one of our favorite sleep tools is magnesium. Chronic stress depletes magnesium in the body, and low magnesium disrupts sleep. So magnesium deficiency is a really common one in the United States. So taking 100 to 200 milligrams a day for most people can help your sleep be deeper. I take my melatonin right before bed and not in the morning when I take my other vitamins. And then our final tip is reducing caffeine. We know so many of us love and need our caffeine, but caffeine can have dual negative effects when it comes to sleep because it makes you both more alert, but it also causes a reduction in your melatonin, which is not particularly helpful at night when you want more melatonin in your body to sleep. So everyone's experience with caffeine is individual, so you can work on what is right for you. You may have been able to have a cup of tea at 4 p.m. when you were in your 20s, but in your 50s, you may need to limit caffeine after 11 a.m. or noon. So just kind of experiment with what works for you. So on that note, we hope that you got a few helpful tips here, and we hope you will go on to have the coziest and deepest sleep tonight. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.